Zell is just jamming fucking
hot dogs,
double fisting hot dogs in his mouth, and he starts choking and shit. And like,
yeah, I think we know what our opening scene should be.
So, god damn it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Gaming Effect. We are here with episode 10, which is going to be our finale, hopefully, of the Final Fantasy VIII series. I'm your co-host, Alex, aka Soldier First Class.
And Corey, aka Dookie03.
Did you forget your name there, bud?
Yes, I did for a split second. No, I was going to say Dookie03, aka Corey, so that's what happened there.
So anyway, guys, I just want to say a huge thank you. We just hit over 400 plays and rising. You guys actually beat the first episode of this series with one more play than the very first episode. So the second episode has 36 plays. The first episode has 35. So thank you for all the support. And if you have not seen either episode 1 or 2 of our Final Fantasy VIII series, please feel free to check those out. And all the other episodes that we have, we're at episode 10, obviously. So you got 9 more episodes to catch up on. So don't forget to share on all your social medias. Give us a rating on all the platforms. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and my YouTube channel. So really appreciate all the likes, comments, answering the poll questions, answering, the Q&A sessions on the episodes. It's been really awesome. So we really appreciate it. We're probably going to cut the intro stuff short.
Yeah.
And hop right into Final Fantasy VIII, but we are going to go with some things that we're playing and or excited for. What are you playing right now?
I've been playing Kudelka, and honestly, I'm not too sure, man. It's when it's good, it's good, but when it's not, I'm not a big fan of survival horror games, and it's not because I do sometimes get scared easy, but it's not because
I've seen you play Outlast, so
Outlast is scary as fuck.
It is.
But it's because they're so like puzzly and like mazy, and the maps suck, and the controls always suck, and this tries to be like the perfect mesh of JRPG and survival horror, and it probably is if you're a survival horror fan, but since I'm not a survival horror fan, I think I'm bailing on it, and next week I think I'm gonna start. I might start that shark game, honestly, that
Man-Eater.
Yeah. I've never played it before. I've kind of always wanted to play it. Now that it's on for like a good price, it's I think I'm gonna start that next week. Also, does this go up tomorrow?
Yes.
So if you guys haven't yet, check out my Twitch channel, because we've got a 24-hour charity stream, Spectrefest, going on. It'll be Saturday at 10 a.m. until Sunday at 10 a.m. So check that out. If you're listening to this on the Friday, it'll be tomorrow. So yeah, definitely check that out. We're raising money in memory of our good friend Jason. We got tons of great games, tons of bad games if you're coming to the late stream or the late part of the stream. So yeah, check that shit out too, guys.
And it's always a blast, guys. I come in every year, I donate every year, and it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend showing up, and even if you don't donate, showing your time, showing your support for everything, and just being there, lurking in the chat and everything, it does really help get the word out there about the donations and the charity and stuff like that. So definitely, even if you can't donate, which we completely understand, definitely stop by and hang out for a while, because it's always a lot of fun. There's always some, a lot of challenges being made. There's a lot of obviously donation goals. There's,
Corey defending his Battle Royale championship.
Yeah. Corey tends to eat something really bad on stream, so there's that. But anyway, yeah, it's for a good cause, and we always have a lot of fun with it every year, so definitely check it out. I am playing currently Metal Gear Solid, the original, right now.
Did you finish it yet?
I have not finished it. I am about to take on the second Sniper Wolf fight. I just beat Liquid Snake in the Hind fight, the helicopter fight on the roof.
Is it called a Hind? I always call it a Hind D.
Yeah, I think it's a Hind is what it's called. But yeah, so not gonna lie, the game has held up really well. It's campy where it needs to be. It's serious where it needs to be. And like, I love that as like much of a Chad as Snake is, I forget how much of a bumbling idiot he is with women.
Yeah.
Like he's always like
experience there,
like he's always flirting with these girls and he's doing a really good job, but then when it comes to like actually
locking them down,
right, he's like, I'm not the hero you think I am. And it sounds it sounds badass, but then when you look at it, you're like, oh, he's actually not good with women at all. Like,
no. But he shouldn't be either, right?
Right.
Really?
Yeah. His whole thing is like he's a loner, so it kind of makes sense. But it's just really funny because like there's some campy stuff, like when Meryl is running away from the camera, it's like focused in on her ass, and her ass is doing like this. It's fucking hilarious. But it just cracks me up.
Did she get shot in yours?
Yes.
Is she gonna die?
No,
there's like a couple different endings, hey?
I survived the torture scene without submitting.
Oh, okay.
So
right, that's what it is.
Yeah, if you survive the torture scene without submitting, she lives.
Right.
But yeah, just there's funny stuff, and there's like the one where Otacon gives you the ketchup and you can fake being dead, and then the guard walks in and is like, what the hell, this is ketchup, and then he just runs out of the room.
Yeah. Does Otacon piss himself in that one?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. When the Cyber Ninja shows up, Grey Wolf. Yeah. It's fucking hilarious.
It's been so long. So I'm like a huge Metal Gear fan, but like the first Metal Gear Solid game is like probably my least favorite game in the whole series.
Really?
Yeah, like I would probably play a Metal Gear 2, like the original Metal Gear 2, before I would play Metal Gear Solid. It's just the way it controls. Like I don't know. It's super like clunky, and
it is really clunky. Like the controls definitely have not held up, but the game itself definitely has.
And I feel like it's not as like, I don't know, point to point, like not as streamlined, I guess, like plot wise. I don't know.
Well, there's one part where you have to like backtrack almost all the way to the beginning of the game to get a sniper rifle. Just to continue where you're at. So
whereas like Metal Gear Solid 2, like a lot of people don't like that one as much, but I love Metal Gear Solid 2. I like 3 and Peace Walker more now, but for years Metal Gear Solid 2 was my favorite Metal Gear game.
See, I'm actually excited because I think in 4 days the remastered collection comes out.
Oh yeah.
And so
I hope they don't fuck it up though.
Well, I'll be able to finish, because I'm playing it on Duck Station right now. I'll be able to finish Metal Gear Solid 1, and then when the remastered collection comes out, I'll be able to hop into part 2 and then part 3, obviously. But the game that I'm excited for right fucking now, that as of this recording is officially out, Spider-Man 2 on PS5. I'm so excited, dude. I'm a huge Venom fan.
Venom's great.
I love Spider-Man. I got the collector's edition, so I'm excited to get the 19-inch Venom statue. Really, really excited. That's going in the background probably forever once I get it. Of the video version of this podcast, you'll see in the background it'll be the Venom statue next time. But yeah, I am super stoked for Spider-Man 2. I can't wait. I actually just finished Nier Replicant the other day too. A game that I've played before, but wanted to replay again because I've been I get in these waves of like, I want to play a game that I've played before, and that was like the one. Too. Yeah. But anyway, I think we're going to cut that segment right there, and we're going to hop right into Final Fantasy VIII because we have a lot of ground to cover. We are going to be a little bit less in depth than we have been the last couple episodes, but mostly because, like, yes, we're trying to save on time, but also a lot of the ending in this game like really falls off hard. And the
It's not as bad as that. There's just like not. It's just kind of rushed. It's very rushed. I think.
And it's not even. I don't even know if it's that. I mean, yeah, it is that, but I think it's because like once you get into the ultimecia stuff, it's very like
you're just doing puzzles and shit.
Well, the explanation is so bad about what's actually going on. Like, I'm sure there are going to be somebody that comments or says something about it, but about how, you know, like, oh, if you just look at this, it makes sense. But it makes sense in that they had to do a plot device to get to Ultimecia's castle, so I kind of get that. But at the same time, like, the whole last fifth of the game just falls off super fucking hard in what I believe is quality. But that's just my opinion. I know some people will probably say that the last half of this game is really good.
I like the last half more than the first, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I love the first. I would say the first 3/4 of the game is the best, and then like. But
again, like for me, the best part about the game is the world lore, right?
Yeah.
So like this is where like you can fuck around in the Shumi village. You can like there's all these little side quest stuff you can do once you get the Ragnarok.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I was more talking about like the main story falling off.
Yeah.
The side content's actually really good in this game, but the main story I feel
it does back off. But it kind of backs off to give you a chance to do all the side stuff, I feel.
Right. So let's go ahead and just hop right into it. So the last time we left off, we were kind of talking about Fisherman's Horizon. We got through that segment, and we were getting to the spot where Sid kind of says, hey, Squall, you're the leader now. This is your fate. This is your destiny. This is what you were born to do. Squall's kind of like, fuck you, old man. Like, no, but he still does it anyway.
Yeah.
We end up back in Balam, and this is where we end up getting Pandemona from Fujin and Raijin. I hated this fucking part.
And I remember it being hard as fuck the first time I played.
The fight itself is not hard. What I don't like about this game sometimes is that it doesn't. If you don't talk to certain NPCs.
Right, that's what it was. Triggering the events was hard.
Triggering the events is hard, and I fucking hate that. Like, this is where the last part of the game really starts to bother me, because there's so much that you have to do.
Talk to a specific NPC, and then a specific NPC, and then go to a specific spot, and then come back out, talk to an NPC, and go back in.
Right.
And then you get the
hotel. And then finally Fujin and Raijin show up, and you're like, oh, he's sleeping here. Oh, wait, he doesn't sleep here anymore because Fujin caught him last time, so now he sleeps behind the car, and then the car's like, oh, no, there's a guy back there, and he's like,
fuck, that was dumb. I forgot about that.
Dude,
that's padding right there.
Oh, it was bad. I fucking hated it. But anyway, the fight itself is cool. You get
Pandemona.
Yeah, you get Pandemona from Fujin.
Who's really cool summon that never really appears ever again.
Yeah.
8 is really good for its summons, and it has a lot of summons, and none of them, like a lot of them are unique to that game.
Right.
And yeah. Like, I guess Doom Train is like a reference to Final Fantasy VI, but it was never, I don't think it was a summon in 6.
No, it wasn't. Doom Train, 8 is the only time Doom Train shows up. I think 8 is one of the few times that Tonberry is a summon too.
Yeah. I love Tonberry as a summon. I just love Tonberries.
Yeah, I think everybody does. But yeah, I did not like this segment. It just, I don't know. They fixed
the Balam Garden. Do they jerry-rig the whole, like, that big fin he uses to steer it yet? Or they just get it to go again, and that's why they crash into Balam?
They actually don't crash into Balam. They fixed it. So
you say
yeah, Fisherman's Horizon actually fixes because remember they're engineers.
They want to get and they want you out of there because you're causing kind of trouble too.
Yeah, right? You're drawing trouble to them. But
yeah,
this is where we end up going to Trebia Garden, and this is
right. We checked Trebia because we knew those missiles were launched.
Yep. And here is. I'm going to get flack for this. I know I'm going to get flack for this, but the plot twist.
Yeah.
So they all go to the basketball court. You can talk to
They're
some
in Trivia.
NPCs.
Trivia, first of all, there's like a big missile through the stage that didn't
Right.
somehow go off. But the rest of the garden is fucked. Like,
Yeah.
it's destroyed.
Yeah, you actually find Selfie at a graveyard that's been kind of destroyed too. And it's very like ominous, like very creepy right there. Like it's a
They
very
did a really
creepy
good job, I think.
Yeah, they did. But you end up on a basketball court, and this is where the plot twist happens. And a lot of people don't like this, but after replaying it this last time on the remastered and knowing what to look for, I like it. I actually like it because all of the pieces were there. And admittedly, this is the problem I have with like Kitase and Nomura led games, is that this is where you see that you have to do a lot of reading, or you have to look for stuff, or you have to, there's a lot of extended stuff that you have to look for to get the context that makes this not feel like an ass pull. And when it does not feel like an ass pull, it's pretty good.
But all the context is hidden in the game, though, which is what ruins it for most people.
Exactly. And I want people that like Final Fantasy 13 to replay this game, because I feel like if you replay it knowing that you have to look for this stuff, you'll enjoy it more than you did the first time. Now, I have tried replaying 13 and I can't fucking do it. I
can't. 13.2 is really good, though.
I just couldn't get through 13. I mean, I got through 13, but I'll never play it again.
Have you played 13.2?
I have not.
I actually recommend it. It's pretty damn good.
I hate, because I don't want to play Lightning Returns.
That's the worst JRPG.
And I feel like I would feel compelled to.
So I don't know if there's like an alternate ending to 13.2, but yeah, the ending to 13.2 sucks ass, because it's like they had a good thing going and then they ruin it all just to set up the third game.
Man,
like
that's so weird. It's almost like Kitase and Nomura do that all the fucking time.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no doubt.
Can't imagine what game they've done with that recently.
Yeah.
But I'm getting flack for that too. Fuck it, who cares? Anyway, so Irvine comes clean finally. He tells everybody, "Oh, I remember this orphanage that we were at," and then everybody's like, "Oh, I remember that too now. Like, now that you bring that up, was it like a stone building? Like, was it kind of old?" Like, and Irvine's like, "Yeah, actually." And he's like, "I knew, but I didn't know how to say anything because you guys didn't remember." And
like, never brought it up.
Yeah. And nobody ever brought it up, so I just thought maybe, like, I was remembering wrong or whatever. But,
and you haven't seen these kids in how many years, right?
Right.
So it's like you don't necessarily know for sure that it's
Well, except for a select few of them, they all got separated.
Yeah.
And only recently did Selfie get transferred to the garden, so, But they also reveal that Guardian forces do, in fact, actually destroy your memory. It was only considered... it was only a hypothesis at the time. Like, it was hinted at, but nobody actually knew whether it did or not. And now that we have these kids that don't remember their past, now we start to see that this is actually the case, and Guardian forces do destroy your memories.
Yeah.
And a lot of this was set up throughout the entire game, but if you weren't really looking for it, you didn't really think about it. Which it explains why the garden faculty in the beginning of the game were like, "Hey, you're going to hear a lot of stuff about Guardian forces from other gardens or from other people. Don't listen to it. It's all propaganda. There's nothing wrong with Guardian forces." And that was their way of like saying like, "Hey, we know that there are potential side effects, but this is our way of life, and you're not going to do anything to stop that, and no one else will either." And so it gives the party a reason to not remember everything, but it does feel like an ass pull if you have not been really listening and paying attention. So he also reveals that Hideo, the sorceress we've been trying to kill, is actually the matron who was our mother figure in the orphanage. So not only are we all related in some ways, like relationship-wise, the person we've been trying to kill is our mother, basically.
Yeah, the who ran the orphanage, basically, raised them, basically.
Right, and the only father that Squall has ever known was Sid.
Yeah.
And so they kind of piece that together, too, with Norg, because Norg's like, oh, Sid and Hideo, that damned married couple, I think is what he says.
Yeah, something, yeah.
And it's like, that's the first, like, hint that those two are related in some way. And then, you know, I like these flashbacks, too, because it also reminded me that the train sequence with Irvine and Selfie made more sense now, because he said, hey, you know, we're fated to be together. Like, my destiny is you.
It makes sense, because, like, why would they met up again after all these years if it wasn't, right?
Well, it was orchestrated, and they explained that, like, Sid orchestrated this whole thing. He knew that one day Hideo was going to be under the spell of some sorceress. And
that's why they founded it all, right? Because,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's why they founded Seed. So
because Squall tells them at the end of the game,
right,
what's going to happen.
And everybody says, oh, well, how did they all just happen to meet up together and all this? Sid orchestrated it. He wanted Squall to be the leader of Seed. He wanted Cypher and Selfie and Quistis and all of these people. He wanted them in the positions they were in because he knew that this was all going to culminate in them coming together and them being Seed and them defeating Ultimecia. But this was years in the making. Like, everything was orchestrated completely.
The only one not really part of the plan is Rinoa, hey?
Right. And she's kind of a happy accident in the plot.
Yeah.
And a lot of people also said, like, when it comes down to it, they're determined that even though Hideo is their matron and they know that now, they're still going to carry out their mission to kill her.
Yeah.
And Rinoa is the one that's like, hey, maybe we should find another way.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, why does Rinoa care and nobody else does? And
because she's not a mercenary.
But it's not that they don't care, it's that they have a mission.
Yeah.
They've been bred since birth to this is their mission.
This is what seeds were created to do.
Right. And they know that now. Yeah. And even though she's their matron, they have a mission, and this is what the matron would want. Because she even says, like, this is the goal of Seed. You are to destroy the sorceress. And even if that meant killing her, which Sid actually says, like, I wish there was a plan that didn't involve killing her. But
it's his fucking wife. But if he's willing to put it on the line, they need to honor that and put it all on the line. You know what I mean?
You know, they need to do what's best for the world and not for how they feel. And that's a part of them being mercenaries and how they were raised.
Yeah. So when it comes to I know I'm jumping way ahead here, but we kind of briefed on it. Because at the very end of the game, when they come back through time compression, Squall gets lost for a second and actually sees the sorceress possess Hideo and all that, and he kind of hints to her. I think he tells her, like, about the whole thing, right?
It's kind of a time loop a little bit.
Yeah, but then how does Hideo form Seed to make that event happen if he never comes back in the time?
Because I believe it's always been a time loop.
Because it's time compression, I guess, right? So it all happens
right.
That makes sense.
Plus, like, so this is also one of the few examples in the game where someone going back in time or dealing with time stuff actually does change how things go. Because, or more so, causes it to happen. Because Alone the whole time has been trying to go back in time and change things, but she's never been successful because she knows she can't. But
During time compression.
Squall ends up in the wrong spot. And he sees her, and she knows it's him.
Yeah.
She doesn't at first, but then she says a line. She says, "You are the only Squall that belongs here," to the little boy. And she knows this because when the little boy runs away in the scene, Squall goes, "Don't worry, he'll be back, I promise." Because he knows it's him.
Yeah.
And then that's when she figures it out. And then when the kid does say something, she goes, "Don't worry, you're the only Squall that belongs here." So she knows it's him. So, like, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy also for Ultimecia, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is kind of... They kind of create a time loop, and it's weird because it's not really properly explained.
No.
But, yeah, we'll kind of get into that too later, because I have some issues with how that all goes down anyway.
Yeah. So where are we at now? I can't remember.
We just got done with the plot twist.
Right. And then they're like, we want to find the orphanage, right? Is that where they go next?
No, we have the Battle of the Gardens.
Yeah, but that's why, because aren't they going to that orphanage, and then they're like in the area, and then they see that
actually, I think you're right.
Gardens there. But before that, that's when you can go to the Shumi village, right?
No, I think you can...
Oh, it's locked, right? It's like sealed at that point.
I think you have to go later after you've gotten through some story stuff.
Ragnarok, probably. Well, yeah, so they go to the orphanage because they're like, I remember an orphanage here. And they're like, let's go. And so they go to the orphanage. Now, is this before or after the White Siege ship part?
It's after, because Fisherman's Horizon was after the White Siege ship.
Oh, okay. So I remember the white, like where you have to find the White Siege ship.
Oh, no. You're right. It's after the orphanage. But so we took over the garden. We went to Balam. We saved Balam from Galbadia. We go to Trabia. We talk about the orphanage. We see the flashback. And then
they go to find the orphanage.
And then they go to find the orphanage, but they have to fight the Battle of the Gardens first.
Yeah, which is the best part of the game, honestly.
Yeah, it is by far one of the coolest parts of the entire game.
Like, all the cutscenes there. So they're pulling up. They like, I think I know where the orphanage is, blah, blah, blah. So you head to where the orphanage is, and then you pull up, and you're like, fuck. Galbadia's garden also can fly. And it's basically looming over the orphanage. And the sorceress is basically controlling it. And they pull up, and oh my god, it's like a big all-out war between the gardens.
Yeah, and like, so this is part where I get a little bit... I feel like the love story got forced into a very dramatic scene that it shouldn't have been forced into.
Like when she's falling, like Rhino almost dies here.
Yeah, she almost dies, but she hangs on for probably a good 10 minutes. There's no way she hangs on
longer, depending on your...
There's no way she hangs on to that ledge.
You want to play some cards?
Yeah.
She's like hanging on for her life.
Yeah, everybody's like, Squall, you need to go get her. And he's like, bah.
You want to play some cards?
Yeah. But
and then they're like, give this ring. You need the ring.
Yeah, dude.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, dude, this is where it really starts to bug me.
That part's dumb. But the rest of it, man, like, they're like, it's like students slaughtering students, like busting in through the window of the classroom.
You have to do that punch fight with the guy in the mech suit.
Oh yeah, on the rope. Yeah, you're on it's on like this hover jet.
How many times on a rope? How many times did you fail that?
I don't think I ever have. I just mash, and I've always gotten through it.
See, I failed it twice on the remaster.
Oh, really? And I just remember, like, because, like, the whole thing, there's, like, a big cutscene happening while the fight goes on.
There's an entire FMV playing behind you, and it's fucking dope.
It's so good, dude.
It's so good. But, yeah, you do save Renoa, and, like, this big, like, almost, like, 80s action movie style. And then you end up on the ground, and you're running across the battlefield. There's
to
like
the
people.
Galbadia
There's like
garden.
people exploding. There's fucking
Yeah, there's shit going off in the background.
like everything's going to hell.
Yeah.
And literally
Fuck.
right after this, you get to the door of Galbadia Garden, and Renoa like kicks her heel up, and she's being all cutesy, and she's like, "Oh, Squall, I have your ring," and blah blah blah, and she's
Like,
like,
dude, what the fuck?
and Squall's like, "We're like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on, right?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What are you doing? What's going?" Like,
Yeah.
literally, people just exploded, and you're like, "Ooh, or Squall!" Like, oh, like it's like, oh my god, dude, please fucking get it over with. Either just would you two just fuck already? Like,
Yeah.
it's just fucking, oh my
right
god,
in front of Cerberus. They should
Yeah.
have owned.
yeah. But so you go in the garden. You do end up picking up Cerberus, and all you have to do is fight him to get him.
Who's honestly useless because of the way magic works in that game. But he's got some good junctions, I guess.
He does have some good Well, I actually like drawing from him more so than actually having him.
Yeah, because his triple is
He has-
fucking really good.
I think he has triple, double, and protect maybe, and those are like 3 really good fucking spells to have.
for your stat, to junction to your stats.
Right.
Triple like is like the best or second best spell
Triple-
in the game. for
Triple
junction.
can max a stat
Yeah.
depending on what stat you put it on. I think
And
Holy,
Ultima
Ultima,
are the
yeah.
two best.
Ultima and Holy are the 2 best, and then Triple I think is the 3rd best.
And Ultima you can draw for free outside Shumi Village.
Right. Ultima you can also get a lot of, I think, in Ultimecia's castle too.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so you go in and you fight Hideo and Cypher here. And I think this is the spot where if you have Odin...
No, it's not till
Lunatic Pandora. You're
yeah.
right. You're right.
But do you draw? I can never remember. Do you draw something from Hideo here?
Alexander.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is how you get Alexander.
I can never remember.
Yeah, so you defeat them. Hideo collapses, and then Renoa starts acting weird and kind of picks Cypher up, right?
Yeah.
And you know that they talk, but you don't know what they say.
Yeah.
And
this
is
she just like collapses too.
Right. And this is going to be a point later on, and you know something is wrong with Renoa.
Yeah.
Because when she falls unconscious, Hideo wakes up, and she's matron again.
She's like, "Yo, it's me, your homeboy from the orphanage."
And she looks at all the seed members, and she's like, "My children, you've grown so much. Like, it's me, it's matron. Like," and everybody's like, "Oh my god, like it is matron. She's back." But nobody realizes, like, oh no, like Renoa is now possessed. They just know something is wrong with her.
You'd think they'd know she's possessed, because you'd think the same thing would have happened to Hideo before, like.
But they've never seen someone being possessed.
But when they go back to Sid, you would have known. You'd think,
right? But it's this is one of those things where they don't
Nomura.
really.
Fucking Nomura!
They just don't explain stuff. Like you never get explained what a sorceress actually like is capable of.
Maybe they can use magic without it being an item. It doesn't go down.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's weird. They just do not explain half the shit in the game, which is fine, but at the same time, like if you don't have established rules, how am I supposed to take it seriously, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, but so she also reveals, like, okay, I was possessed by ultimecia. What all the things that you saw me do was not me. I didn't do that. She also explains the plan for time compression.
Right.
And she is wanting to basically take all the powers from all the sorceresses and become a god. Is basically kind of her plan.
And it's at this time where it's like, look, lady, you get one phone call. Because this sounds like a bullshit story.
Yeah.
She's like, I was possessed the whole time.
So
what if she wasn't?
Yeah, no shit. But so Renoa goes into a comatose state, and this is where like Squall completely flips the script. This is where Squall is no longer the Squall we know. He is in love. He just now realized it.
He's like, I was a dick to her this whole time.
Yeah, and he is just stricken with grief.
Mm-hmm.
And he is trying to find Alone. He wants to get to her because he thinks that the only way to save Renoa is to go back in the past to the moment before she becomes possessed and
play
save
the
her.
shitty games that suck ass.
And wait, what? Oh, Legend of Legaia. Yeah, my bad. Legend of Legaia reference, everybody. But they even though Squall knows that Alone cannot technically fix the past, he doesn't care. He is like, fuck this, I'm gonna find a way. If anybody's gonna find a way, it's gonna be me. I'm saving Renoa.
It's gonna be me.
But then,
and that's where you find the
White Sea ship. Yeah,
dude, I got stuck here for months when I was a kid.
It's so hard to find. I knew where to look, and I couldn't fucking find it.
I couldn't find it at all. I had to ask my buddy who was the one that like told me to get in, like pick up Final Fantasy VII, blah blah blah. I was like, dude, where the fuck? And then he had to come to my house and find it for me. Like he's like, it's like near Centra. It's like, dude, there's so many little nooks and crannies near Centra.
It's like that joke about how someone can't find the clitoris.
Yeah,
I can't find the White Seed ship.
Yeah, the White Seed ship is the clitoris of Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
It's a myth. God damn it. But so they find the White Seed ship after 12 years of searching, and
yeah, several months.
And they tell her, it was a waste of fucking time because they tell her that Alone
can't do shit.
Yeah, they can't do shit because Alone has gone to Esthar.
But somebody's there's got the Shiva card, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Dude, I played so much Triple Triad when I play this game.
Dude, same here. I played way more Triple Triad this time than I usually do.
Did you do the King of Queens? Or the Queen of whatever
Queen of Cards? No, but I did part of it, but I did do the get the Lionheart on like disc 1 thing.
Yeah, I do that too.
So we are about to get into our next Laguna dream, and probably one of my favorite ones. Because again, he's a bumbling idiot sometimes.
So I always get the is this the one?
This is the movie.
Oh, okay. See, I always get these out of sequence. Like, I can never remember what order the Laguna dreams are.
So do I. I have to write them down, or I have to look at something that tells me.
Yeah.
So they go to Fisherman's Horizon, and he goes to the infirmary to visit her. She's still asleep. He passes out, and he wakes up as Laguna, and you're filming the movie. And dude, it is fucking hilarious because Kyros is supposed to dress up as the dragon.
Right. And then what happens? He gets chased away by the dragon,
no,
doesn't he?
He goes to get in the costume, and then the real dragon shows up, and the director and Laguna are like, oh my god, Kyros, you did such a good job. This almost looks real. And then he goes to like film it and fight her, and like the dragon roars or whatever, and he's like, damn, Kyros, you're really like committed to this. Yeah. And then the realization kicks in with the director, and he takes off running.
Right.
And then like the princess character like takes off running too. And then like
you get to fight it a bit with his gunblade too, hey? While they're filming still.
Yeah, you get to fight it in like a mini game.
Yeah, I like that. So that's the movie that Cypher saw.
Yes! That is the movie that Cypher saw that made him fall in love, because if you watch how Laguna holds the gunblade, it's
that's
like
how Cypher does.
It's like this.
Gangster.
and fucking if you watch Cypher, that's how he holds it. He holds it like this.
Yeah, that was like his favorite movie growing up.
It is his favorite movie. And if you look at the library list
it's always like
Balam Garden
rented out.
It says the requested items are now in, and it says the Sorceress's Knight is one of the requested items. So you know that Cypher is the one requesting that item.
Yeah.
And so it's funny how like everything really ties together, and we kind of talked about that in episode 1, but I wanted to wait until this moment because this is kind of where the realization kicks in.
Yeah.
That fucking Cypher is obsessed with being a sorcerer's knight, and his hero is literally Squall's father.
Yeah. It's funny too because like Laguna's like literally just doing this movie job for cash on the side kind of thing.
Well,
But
and for the experience.
Yeah, and it obviously just blows up and becomes this big movie. But nobody knows Laguna as this actor, really.
Right. It's just,
unless that's why he gets elected, is because he's like famous and stopped Adel.
Yeah, pretty much. But
imagine like Stallone showing up and like getting rid of the sorceress and then running for president.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck? That's like kind of what the situation is, though.
Pretty much. So he's actually the one of the reasons he's filming it is because he's on his way to Esthar to save Alone because she got kidnapped by Adele,
right?
And like he sees the lunatic Pandora in the horizon, right?
Yeah,
and so he
did they already do the lunatic Pandora dream sequence?
Yes, because that's the one where
they throw him off the cliff and
right, they throw him off the cliff. Yeah, so that's way before. That's like I think that's the second dream. So this is where Squall's like, "Fuck it, I'm taking Renoa to Esthar." He wakes up super early. He thinks he's the only one that's left. He has like this moment where he admits to her that he loves her, but obviously like he doesn't know if she's listening or can listen.
He's wearing her like a cape.
Yeah, he's like
walking down the railroad.
I mean, this man is just
broken.
Right. He is just punished as fuck. He does not know what to do.
Punished snake.
He literally just like he's carrying her on his shoulders. He stops on the train tracks and he has this moment with her where he's like, you know, I love you. I don't open up to people. I don't know, you know, how to say these things or whatever. And he has this really tender moment with her. And then like I love these scenes because this is where you start to see the shell on Squall come off.
Yeah. It's like, you know, that he kind of always had these feelings, but he's too shy almost to like express them, right?
Well, and depending on how you made decisions and stuff throughout the game, you might not feel that this is a huge change in character, because if you choose the warmer responses to him or to her, you might say, oh, like Squall's always flirted with her, Squall's always really liked her, you know. But if you choose like the colder options,
then it kind of comes
right. Then it kind of comes out of nowhere, and that's part of the reason why I don't really like the choice system in this game.
Yeah,
because even though it does not change the outcome, it changes your perception of how the game looks. Right.
Yeah. But I think yeah, it really comes down to like he's just not comfortable like opening up to people. It's not that I feel like those feelings were always there for her.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Because he lost Alone,
he's
who
been
was his
abandoned
big sis.
Like twice, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he lost Alone as a kid, and that's when he was like,
his dad dropped him off at an orphanage for fuck's sakes.
Right.
And then he lost Alone, who was his only actual blood relative,
Right.
and then he ended up getting sent away from the orphanage to join Garden and got separated from all his childhood friends too.
Yeah.
So it's understandable.
Well, actually, I don't think Laguna dropped him off. I think Rain died while Laguna was out adventuring. He ended up in the orphanage with Alone because she also would be alone because of Rain dying. Yeah. But yeah, so I really like this scene. I think it's a good tender moment for Squall. We see what's kind of in his mind about it all. And then we realize like all of his friends show up. And it's like, we all love her too. Like, do you not see that we want to help you? Like, we're going to help you get to Esthar. We're going to help you save her.
This is kind of like a weaker version of that. Remember that part in Final Fantasy IX? It's like one of my favorite parts in all of gaming. When Zidane's like in that cell with like Garland and stuff, and then he's like feels like he's just on his own and he's nothing because he's just a puppet or whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, as you keep battling the guys, more characters show up. They're backing you, and that music, like, fuck, man, that part's so powerful.
Yeah.
But this is like kind of like that to like a little bit of like a weaker degree.
I think they do something similar to that in Final Fantasy X also.
Yeah, I don't remember. But that was so good in 9, man.
Maybe it's in Via Purifico.
What is that?
In where when you're in Bevel and Yuna gets thrown into that dungeon, and then like I think maybe you have to find the people, but you pick up party members as you go, and they kind of like support Yuna through that dungeon. So Hideo is with them. And this is a part where you can actually grind the fuck out of everything with her because her level doesn't matter. So if you get her up to a level 100, it doesn't affect anything.
Yeah.
So you can kill your other 2 characters and just draw magic, kill stuff with her. You
don't have her for very long, though.
No, you don't. You only have her for like this whole stretch of the game. So you have to really leave here and do what you're going to do.
Because when does she leave? When you
get to Esthar.
Yeah. So it's like, I remember being like, oh, sweet, she joins the party, but being disappointed that she leaves right away.
Right.
Because it was kind of like, I don't know. Considering Final Fantasy VIII was my first like JRPG since Dragon Quest IV, I kind of just assumed that she was going to be like a permanent party member. And then,
she's a really short guest character.
Yeah, she is. But I think it's just to fill that character slot that Rinoa kind of is missing from now.
Right. And I do love that we played a part in like bringing her and Sid back together too.
Yeah.
So,
but when you get to across the railroad and you get to land, you're like, what the fuck? There's nothing here. It's just like a salted wasteland. Hey,
yep.
Like, and then do you see the like screen effects right away, or no, it's not till you get through that great bone graveyard?
You see a bit of a glitch, and then the next screen,
or something.
Yeah, and then the next screen is where you see like the major stuff.
Yeah, and then you go through there, and then like a hole opens up, isn't it? And then
you have a boss fight right there too.
Yeah,
I can't think of the name of the boss fight. I just did it too, so I should know it. But
it's like that hand, and that he's like this kind of.
Well, it's actually like an actual full-bodied skeleton thing.
Yeah.
But so you make it through there, and then like this is one of the coolest FMVs in the entire fucking game.
Because all of a sudden the barrier comes down.
The cloaking device turns off, and Esthar is there in all its glory, and it looks like
huge futuristic city.
Yeah, it looks like you know those memes where it says, "Oh, the world if Final Fantasy 13 had never been made" or something.
Yeah,
it's like this really futuristic city that shows up. You know,
kind of look. Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah,
process. Like
So it's like Final Fantasy's version of what like the future looks like. Yeah. And so, like, you go in and there's like all these pipes that you go through. By the way, this is my least favorite city in the entire fucking game.
Yeah, just because navigation is a nightmare. Yeah, it's way too big.
Dude, finding where you're supposed to go is a goddamn nightmare. And especially when the lunatic Pandora is going above the city and you have to like
find it.
Yeah.
In each area.
Easily the worst part of the game for me, besides maybe the prison.
I think you're right.
So Esthar kind of has a little bit of a history. They do not get along with Galbadia at all. They're more of a futuristic science-based city. You can tell by their warriors, like they've got like cybernetics, they've got, a lot more cyber armor, a lot more sleek design. Whereas like Galbadia is more like traditional military.
Galbadia is more like cyberpunk or steampunk.
I would say more steampunk, and Esthar is probably more like cyberpunk type way.
Yeah.
And so like these governments just really didn't get along.
Well, to be fair, Esthar was being run by a sorceress during the Sorceress War, right?
It was the Sorceress War, so They really didn't get along.
And Galbadia was on the good side back then, but because they got taken over by a sorceress, they
Right.
became
Well,
the bad
President
guys.
Daling too.
Yeah, he was a douche. Yeah.
Because we gotta realize, like, the Sorceress War was 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that's when Squall was born. So, like, all of this is, like, kind of led up to this moment.
Yeah.
And so they pretty much, since the Sorceress War, have been hidden from the world. And this is where the radio interference started also, that caused, like, the reason why the Dalit mission
broadcasts.
Yeah, the way the television broadcast had to run and everything through the Dalit mission and all that. This is why, because Esthar cut themselves off from the world, and that caused
a disruption, basically.
Right. And so we'll get into a little bit more of that, because there is more to it than just that, but we'll get into that for a little bit. But let's just say that is what happened, basically. But Hideo wants to go here because she wants to talk to Dr. Odine, which this guy is fucking hilarious in a really weird way.
He's a fucked up dude, though.
Yeah. So he is one of those, like, scientists where it doesn't matter what side he's technically on and what reason he has. If it is for science, he is gonna do it.
And it's also like, it doesn't matter how mean or grotesque of whatever he has to do to run his experiments, he's still gonna run them.
Right, and it shows because, like, at one point he is on Adele's side.
Yeah.
He works for Adele, and he is okay with that.
Yeah.
But then once, like, the new regime comes in and Adele's been defeated,
he's working for them. He
works for them, and he's okay with that too. As long as he is able to do his experiments, he doesn't give a fuck what side he's on.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's I like Dr. Odine. Did you notice that he has a German accent?
Yeah. Well, because that's how I was just about to say, that's how the Nazi scientists and stuff
exactly.
Almost all of them got hired out by, like, fucking the United States, like England.
That's the first thing I thought of when I saw his character, was this guy is likely supposed to represent like a Nazi scientist back in the day.
Yeah.
And it makes sense too, because, like, during the war, he worked for the bad guys.
Yeah.
And now that the war's over, he's working for the good guys. So it is kind of a good reference, and it is funny that he does have, like, a German accent added on top of it. So he kind of explains more. So the device that Ultimecia uses to come back to the past is actually Dr. Odine's invention.
It's like the Odine machine or something.
It's the junction machine alone.
Oh,
he named it after Alone.
Because he had to use something from her in order to develop it, isn't it?
He studied her brainwaves. And that's how Ultimecia knows about Alone, because of the machine.
So if he never would have made that machine, all of this would have been prevented?
For the most part, yeah, it seems like. But so they fall asleep again as they arrive in Esthar. Shocker. And we see where Laguna has been taken captive. He was held in forced labor in the lunatic Pandora laboratory. He saves Alone in Dr. Odine's lab.
Oh, right. I forgot about that part.
And because this is where he was researching her time travel stuff. Like, this is where the seeds of his machine began. So
he busts her out.
Yeah, and it's funny because we see Odine as this bad guy, and then immediately he's a good guy.
He's helping you.
Like, it's so weird because they do it right after.
Away.
Right. It's like, boom, bad guy, boom, good guy.
Yeah.
And they never really...
He's never really a good guy or a bad guy. Like,
right.
I consider him probably a bad guy at the end of the day.
I think morally... He's questionable.
He's a shitty person.
Yeah, morally he's questionable, but
he's useful.
His loyalties don't lie in a nation, but in science.
Yeah.
Whether that be good or bad, he's unapologetic to a fault. So we also find out about Adele and how she has been locked away in space, which is the reason why the radio frequency is the way it is. Her space capsule and all of that has caused all of this like weird interference. But also, back to the point that I made in episode 2 where we talked about Timber and the video screen, she is sending messages to people through that
coming from her fucking casket thing.
Right. So yeah,
but that casket's made to like completely like suppress her power and all that, hey?
Right. So Alone is now on a lunar base. And so the party is basically like, Squall is like, I am taking Renoa to see Alone. So they go to the lunar base.
Because I was like, I can't remember, why does he bring her like dead ass body to space
to see Alone? Because she's up there. Yeah,
I like the launch sequence. How it's like a big ramp that they shoot up into space.
And so they go up there, and a lot of people don't know this in the games world anyway. Like, we obviously know it, but the true purpose of the space station is to basically keep Adele in check, because they do not want her getting out. Because, number one, she's been asleep for 17 years in this casket with nothing but time to think about all the shit that they put her through and the tricks they put her through, and the fact that Laguna fucking tricked her and knocked her into this coffin, and now she has had nothing but time but to be angry about this. So they keep her in check. They do this to keep her from passing on her sorceress powers, because that was what she was doing in the first place anyway. It was kind of like,
and that's why they seal her instead of kill her too, right? Right, because then she can't pass on her powers.
Right, yeah, because to die, a sorceress has to pass on her powers first. So, this is when the lunatic Pandora comes out too.
Basically what it is, so there's something that happens every like a number of years. It's like a long period of time called the lunar cry, and it's when like so there's monsters on the moon, and that's how like the monsters get on the main planet, is like from the moon, from these lunar cries. So every like, I don't know, I'm just gonna say 100 years or 50 years or something, the monster population on the moon reaches a point where they all like gather at this point on the moon and fall to the main planet. I don't know, Gaia or Earth, or I don't know what it's called.
Whatever it's called.
And it leaves like this horrible, like damages the planet big time. And then there's like huge, like a surplus of monsters on the planet.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what destroyed Centra.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. That's why Centra is like in like all those like shatters and stuff. Like it's all fucked up. That's what that spot near Trabia, there's like that giant crater. I think that was like the first lunar cry, or the first man-made lunar cry. And what Lunatic Pandora is it's basically a mobile fortress that acts as like a targeting mechanism for the lunar cry to go through, and it can force a lunar cry, so they don't have to wait this 100 year period.
It can artificially trigger one, which is dangerous to say the least. Like it is a weapon. And Adele wanted to use it as a weapon. But they obviously they got rid of her. They sank it to the bottom of the ocean, and that's kind of where, like, you know,
who raises it? Cypher.
Yeah. So Cypher, raises it as part of Ultimecia. That's her idea to start all this, is to cause a lunar cry. The party goes in there, but then they get kicked out by this giant fucking robot. And I forgot about this, and when I was playing the remaster, I thought I fucked up.
Is it that Delta white thing with the two pods?
Yeah, it's like a winged thing. It's like, it's really weird looking, yeah.
You went in there right at the beginning?
You have to, with Zell.
Oh, do you? I thought it was when you go in there with the full party.
Yeah, no, you go in there like 3 times. Once in the Laguna Dream, once with Zell, and then once with the entire party.
Right. So while Squall is in space, the ground party is like trying to chase down lunatic Pandora, right?
Right.
Because it's going through
It's going across the city.
of Esthar. Yeah.
Yeah. And it ends up at the Sorceress Memorial, or not Memorial, the
It's like a memorial for the war, isn't it?
yeah, but I
Sorcerer's
can't remember what the
War?
fuck it's called.
I can't
But
remember. You get a ring there. Is it Solomon's ring? Is
yeah,
that
it's
where
it's the Doom Train ring.
Doom Train ring.
Yeah. So we find Alone on the lunar base. She like says that, or Squall tells her, "Hey, I've recovered my childhood memories. I know who you are now. I'm sorry I didn't remember you." And then he gets right into it. He's like, "Send me back to the past. I'm going to save Renoa. This is what I came here to do. You are going to help me. I don't care what you say about not being able to change the past. I'm going to figure out a way, and I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
So she does it. She does send him to the past, and but it's not till a little bit later, because I think he finally begs her to do it after the fact.
But it's a short one, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's very short.
He can't even really do anything.
Right. It's basically just to see, like,
if he can take control or something, like direct control or influence.
Right. But it's basically just to see her memories is what he's trying to do too.
Right.
But ultimecia ends up taking control of Renoa's body and just kills everybody.
Yeah.
Except Squall.
Yeah.
He just bounces off of her. Everybody else basically dies. Like,
you get launched. I remember doing it like 500 times, too.
Yeah, same. And
she's
so,
like
she's got that white aura.
It's like that Carrie kind of like where she's like just blasting people away.
It's almost like a scene out of like Aliens or something, where like, obviously not like the horror aspect of it, but it's almost just ominous and scary, like,
because you're in space alone. All the people that are like officials that could like solve problems are getting killed left, right, and center, and you're like trapped on this space station, basically. Right.
And so she actually unlocks
the airlock.
Part of Adele's airlock.
Oh yeah,
but she has to go into space to get the other part of the airlock. And earlier in the scene, or in this segment, you see the president go out there and make sure that the lock is secure, right?
Right.
Earlier in the scene, but you don't know who the president is yet.
Right.
And
I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's some
because they're like the president's out there checking the lock on Adele's coffin, basically. Yeah.
And so she goes out there, she opens the seal. Ultimecia basically leaves Renoa's body, and the lunatic Pandora triggers the lunar cry.
Yeah, and the lunar cry hits Adele's coffin, right?
Right.
And spins it towards Earth.
Yes. This is where I have a huge fucking problem with where this game goes. And do you want to know why?
Yeah.
If the lunar cry... These are billions of monsters, right?
Yeah, yeah. Pouring into the planet
right above where you get the Solomon ring, right? Right above the city, right above, the lunatic Pandora. Centra was destroyed by the last lunar cry.
Yeah.
Nothing happens.
Yeah, I want to say it's because... Actually, I know it's because of this. It's because the last lunar cry wasn't that long ago. Because remember Centra was destroyed by a natural lunar cry, and that only happens like once every 100 years or so. So the buildup of monsters wouldn't have been enough to destroy the land. And then keep in mind there was also that man-made lunar cry near Trabia. So the time in between lunar cries would have been so much smaller than it is naturally, and that's why. Oh, I can't hear you all of a sudden. Did you mute your mic?
Sorry.
There we go.
I would agree with you, but if you look at the size of that lunar cry, it is massive. and there are so many monsters in there, right?
Yeah.
But you don't see any repercussions of that. None. No increase in monsters.
I think there is.
no
Because then there's the monsters that are in the city now. The monsters
they're
are
not.
harder on the world map.
I don't believe that there are any in the city. I believe it's
No, because I remember.
I think it's soldiers.
No, there's definitely those cheetahs and stuff.
Is there?
And iron giants. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I think that's in Lunatic Pandora.
No, you know what? I could be thinking because you know how you can walk on the city streets before you're in the city?
Yeah.
I might be thinking of that.
There is a segment, I think, where the city has been kind of attacked or something.
Yeah.
Or where like the transit system's
not working. I remember the monsters being harder after the Lunar Cry.
But I want to say it's because Galbadia is there, if I remember right. But I don't remember. But I feel like there's not as big of an outcome as I was hoping there would be.
Yeah.
From the Lunar Cry, because like you've heard about it and how decimating it can be.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't. It just doesn't feel like it did much at all. So Adele is kind of back in.
She somehow lands in. I guess if the flow of monsters are going through Lunatic Pandora, right. I guess it would drag her coffin through. But then you get the whole space sequence where Rinoa is like just drifting and Squall goes out the airlock after her, right?
Yeah. It's so they're evacuating the lunar base, and they all kind of put on spacesuits, and then Squall's like, "I'm going after her.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to stop me." And so, like, while he's there, Alone sends him back in time. He figures out that Rinoa was possessed by Ultimecia back at Galbadia Garden. Mm-hmm. That's why she went
crazy
why she went crazy at Galbadia. That's why she revived Cypher. That's who ordered him to go to Lunatic Pandora.
That's what she would have whispered to him, right?
That's what she whispered to him. And in that scene where they show her memories, you actually get a flash of Ultimecia.
Right.
So that's how you know. You see her like flash real quick.
And then she's like, "What are you looking at?"
Yeah.
That was creepy. Because that's when Alone takes you back to that part in time, right?
Right.
And then you're like, you can see Ultimecia, and then she like faces the camera. That was fucking eerie, man.
Yeah. So
because up until this point, nobody knows that we're inside of Laguna. Nobody knows that we're viewing the past, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Sorcerer Ultimecia is like transfers to Rinoa, and you're like, you always have like that internal dialogue of where it's like the clear boxes of what you're thinking
and the parentheses
when you're possessing, when you're in the past there. And it's like you're not really physically there. You're just mentally there, right?
And they can kind of feel you. Because Laguna feels you.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden for Ultimecia to just be like, "What are you looking at?" And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's fucked
up. And that's
the
the first part where you're like, A, now she knows you're fucking onto her. B, that's the first part where you're like, okay, like you heard how fucking powerful and terrifying this bitch is. Now this is the first time you kind of get to experience like her power
and I think this is the first time you see her physically too.
I think it is. I think you're right.
Because you don't really see her at all until late in the game.
Fuck, man. They just nailed that part.
They really did.
Yeah.
So Squall does catch her if you time it right, that is.
Yeah, what happens if you don't? Do you just game over?
It redoes it.
Oh. I've never not caught her, but I've always been stressed out.
Well, I failed that too. So
did you?
Yeah. So this is another part that really bothers me. As much as I love the Ragnarok, this part bothers me.
Yeah, where they just like perchance drift into this derelict ship.
Right. It feels like such an ass pull that ship just happened to be there 17 years later. Right.
And it was like lost, wasn't it?
Right, it was lost. They had no
Yeah.
contact with it for 17 years. They didn't even really care to have contact with it. They just left it. They're like, fuck it, it's lost. And it just happens to be right where Squall and Renoa are in space for them to get saved, right?
Yeah. And like I could see Renoa getting, because she gets kind of blasted off of the fucking coffin from the lunar
Right.
cry, doesn't she?
Yeah, I believe so.
But so she could be pretty far maybe from the space station, but Squall can't get very far. So obviously they're not very far. So how the fuck has nobody seen the Ragnarok in all this time? Like your little jetpack on your spacesuit is not going to take you very far.
Look at obviously the lunar base has been out there.
Yeah.
So how is the lunar base not seen?
Exactly.
The Ragnarok. How have people that have gone out to Adele's coffin and
not seen it off in the distance
and not seen it, but somehow at this very moment where they need a rescue or something to save them, here comes the fucking Ragnarok out of fucking nowhere.
Which is like probably my favorite airship of all time.
It is statistically impossible for this to happen. And yet, and I know,
just gotta believe.
Dude, I know I'm talking shit about a fantasy game where nothing has to make sense.
I know, but there's still...
But it bothers me.
Yeah, no, understandable.
So
but it's the Ragnarok, baby.
Right, the Ragnarok is fucking awesome. You know what it reminds me of, and I almost
kind of the swordfish from Cowboy Bebop, but it's got claws.
Actually, I want to look something up real quick.
I think the swordfish had that minigun too.
Well, I want to look this up because there is a show that I think came out before Final Fantasy VIII. And it's an anime, and when I say it, it's going to click. But, so, Final Fantasy VIII came out in...
It was 98.
99, actually.
Oh, was it?
Yes, 1999.
So did Final Fantasy IX also come out in 99?
I don't remember. Let me look. 2000. So, Outlaw Star... came out in 1998, right?
Right.
What's crazy about that is that actually the first episode aired in 2001, but I believe the manga was in 98. And in that show, the ship that they use, the Outlaw Star, looks like the Ragnarok a little bit.
Does it?
And it has grappler arms.
Oh, really?
And the Ragnarok has grappler arms. So I thought like maybe the creators of Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, it does kind of look the same.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the Ragnarok a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
And it has the grappler arms.
I always thought it looked like the swordfish from Cowboy Bebop. I didn't watch much Outlaw Star because to me it felt like a not as good version of Cowboy Bebop, and I saw Cowboy Bebop first.
Right. So they get on the Ragnarok. They have to fight a little bit to get through to the cockpit and everything.
Okay, so this part was fucking awful. Because
which part of it?
The aliens, the fighting the aliens part.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. So every time I ran into an alien, I fought the alien. And I was like, okay, let's go. Now there's a fucking alien blocking this door. So I'd fight that alien. But then the alien I just fought would come back. So you have to kill the 2 red aliens.
In sequential order.
2 green, and then the 2 purple, and then the 2 yellow.
You know, I actually did this on accident. In my in my remastered playthrough, I did this on accident. Because I was like, why aren't these spawning anymore? Because I was actually spamming... like,
just attacking whoever was there.
Well, I was spam grinding them because they give decently good AP.
Yeah, they do give good AP.
So I was spam grinding them, and then all of a sudden they stopped showing up
accidentally.
And I was like, wait a minute, why are they not showing up anymore? So I looked it up, and they're like, oh, you have to kill them in sequential order. And I was like, fuck, how did I do that on accident?
Dude, when I was a kid, this is another place that I was stuck for a long time. And then I had to ask my friend. I was like, dude, the aliens keep coming back. And this is also, so this playthrough was where I got stuck in Ultimecia Castle because I hit high levels because I was stuck here like fighting these guys forever.
And what's funny, I think, and a lot of old games do this, not so much new games because they kind of handhold you a lot, but I feel like RPGs and like older PS1 games and stuff like that did not tell you where the fuck to go.
A lot of times.
Like a lot of times you had to really just figure it the fuck out because there was no internet, there was no like there were strategy guides, but like if you didn't have one, like
and I think it was because it was that sweet part in time. Like, because on the NES or Super Nintendo, if you played a JRPG, well, guess what? You talk to all the town folks. You only have access to this new town, right? So you don't have to scour the fucking globe to figure out where to go next. And then your next location, you're only going to have one or two options of places you haven't been yet, right?
yeah.
Whereas on the PS1, that's where it starts like, oh, I left town. Now there's all these different places I can go to. There's too many NPCs I can talk to try and figure out where to go. So that's, I think, why that started happening more on the on the PS1. It did definitely happen on the PS2 and it happened on the NES, but usually on the NES, there was so little amount of characters for you to talk to that you could figure it out, and there was so little options to go to that you could eventually figure it out.
Right. But yeah, I feel you. It's one of those things where like this part was a little weird. Now,
and there's nothing that ever explains it, I don't think. Unless there's like a diary in the ship somewhere, maybe. Like
I don't remember. I don't remember
either.
But
once you get through that, you guys start somehow. How do you fly it? Did they?
You get in the cockpit. You get in the cockpit, and I think
you like send out a signal to get contact.
Yeah, the radio goes off, and they're like, "Oh my god, the Ragnarok! The Ragnarok! Oh my god!" Like. Obviously, for a nation that has not gotten a hold of this ship in 17 years and radio hasn't worked in 17 years, like, this is kind of a big deal, but at the same time, like, the fucking lunar cry just happened, and this guy has all he cares about right now is the Ragnarok. Like,
yeah.
So,
and they kind of like autopiloted guide you down, don't they?
Yeah, they say there's enough fuel for them to get home, so just click it in and let's go.
Yeah.
This is where Squall and Renoa finally have that moment where they can be alone with nobody around, and Squall goes back to the way he was while she was awake the first time. And a lot of people don't like this. I do.
Because I kind of don't, because I feel like this is where he could really be like pouring it out. But at the same time, I'm kind of like that in real life. Like I'll be like, oh my god, like for example, I have so many of my friends' parents who I would like to just call one day and be like, thank you for being there for me, because like my dad passed away when I was really young. I wasn't close with my mom at all when I was like in high school and stuff like that. Like I just stayed at friends' houses all the time, and I've always wanted to just call and tell my friends' parents like how much I appreciate them like raising me and making me who I really am today. But I always get like this, and I'm like, man, like this is something I need to do because one day they're not going to be here, right? And they're not going to ever hear this from me. But then whenever I'm with them or whatever, it's something that I just can't bring myself to do. Like it's just too awkward of a conversation for me to have with them, and so like I totally understand it, but at the same time, it pisses me off that it happens in the game.
Well, I like it because here's the thing. Squall knew that when she was in a coma, she was not going to talk back to him. So he could let out all the feelings he's had for all these years built up. He could let them out for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
To someone that was just basically
listening.
Kind of listening, but not really. But someone that he knew was not going to judge him.
Yeah.
because she wasn't going to be able to talk to him. And now that he has her and she's there in front of him, he reverts back to protecting himself because she's no longer someone that will just listen.
Yeah.
She's going to have her own things to say. She's going to have her own, like, he feels if he gets close to her that he is vulnerable again.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be vulnerable with a person that can talk back to him.
Yeah.
And it scares him. So he reverts back to the old Squall. And I like that because it stays in line with his character.
Yeah, it's real. It makes it more real.
Right. I mean, I have been like that before where, like, I want to say something, but I know that I'm just looking for somebody to listen. I don't want feedback because I'm just trying to process my own feelings.
Right.
And so when he goes through that, he's like, he puts the shell back on, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
I do kind of wish that, like, they had that kiss. They had done what they, what everybody thought they were going to do, especially because Eyes on Me, the vocal version, is playing in the background.
Yeah, that's
And,
true,
like,
the whole flight back.
And, like, this is their song. Like, yes, it's from Julia to Laguna, but their kids are now living the life that they wanted with each other.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, does Rhino know that Julia is her mom and that Julia wrote this song?
Yeah, because I think she mentions that her mom died.
But why wouldn't she mention that this was like her mom's song?
Because I think the song is being played for us. I don't think it's actually playing on the ship.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
It is. I think it is. Because doesn't the guy say, "Here, we'll play some music or something"?
No.
While you come back, I thought he does say.
No,
something
I don't believe so.
Because he's like, I can't stay on the line with you or whatever this whole time, so I'm just gonna change you to a radio station or something.
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay.
Well, how would they have music prepared? There hasn't been radio frequency in 17 years.
Yeah, I guess.
So, yeah, I think it's literally just for us as the player, as kind of like a mood music.
Okay.
And, like, that song's playing, and everybody's like, oh my god, this is it. This is finally going to happen. Like,
yeah.
And then they completely just subvert your expectations, and now it's...
Doesn't she, like, fall asleep in his lap kind of thing, though?
She
he tells her to buckle up!
Yeah, he tells her to buckle up!
I forgot about that!
Yeah. So
she's, like, falling asleep in his arms, and
yeah.
he's like, we're getting close to Earth there, bud.
Yeah.
You better buckle up.
You don't want to get hurt, you know?
Yeah.
So, they contact the Ragnarok, and they tell her that she needs to
basically go into custody once they land.
And Renoa goes along with it. She's like, okay, I need to do this because I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to be like Hideo and hurt the people I love because I get possessed. So she agrees to go with him, and then finally Squall, like, accepts it. And then as soon as they land, he freaks out.
Yeah.
And
he's like, fuck this. What did we do all this for?
Yeah, right. And so he goes and he rescues her from the Sorceress Memorial. And they take the Ragnarok and they go to Hidea's house. And this is where we see another great scene between the two. He promises to be her knight.
Yeah.
And this is where, like, the cycle of things continues. Like, sorceresses need a knight because, and I believe Hideo is the one. She explains that most sorceresses that do not have a knight become evil. Because the knight is there to basically
ground them, kind of keep them
to ground them, to be their rock, to support them. And so we kind of see this because Sid was Hidea's knight, basically.
right.
And when ultimecia possessed her, she no longer had a knight because ultimecia does not have one.
Right.
And so,
well, I guess Cypher, technically, I guess.
Well, yes, but not.
He's kind of like picked up along the way.
It kind of has to be someone that the sorceress loves.
Yeah.
And that's where we see the concept of a sorceress's knight being twisted for evil purposes, because
just to recruit Cypher.
Right.
Basically.
Cypher wants to be a sorceress's knight, but he doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
He just sees it as a status symbol.
He knows what it means in like the entertainment content.
Right. It's a status symbol.
Context. Yeah.
And so Ultimecia takes him as her knight, but not really, because she doesn't love him. Like, there's no emotional attachment to him for her. But Sid was for Hidea. You know, Squall is for Renoa. And if you notice, Adele was evil and had no knight.
That's true.
So it kind of all comes full circle here. And this is also where we see the flower field scene. And
where they like promise if something happens that this is where they'll always meet up.
Yes, and that plays into the opening FMV of the game.
Yeah, and the end, like near the ending. Right,
where at the beginning we see all these different weird things kind of in play, almost like a dream sequence. And Renoa is in the flower field in the beginning, and we don't realize that this is actually Squall talking. Squall says, if you look for me here, I'll be here waiting for you. I thought when I played this game initially that it was Renoa, but it wasn't. It was Squall making this promise.
So you know what I'm thinking right now that I've never thought before? At the intro, when he's sparring with Cypher, him and Cypher are sparring. What if, because eventually he goes through time compression, all these memories are hitting him during the sparring, and that's how he fucks up and gets hurt.
And that could be that's
so the opening cutscene isn't just, this is cool shit that'll happen. That's the time compression hitting him at that point in time.
And it very well could be. I think there are some actual theories on that.
Oh.
And it does make sense. And it's kind of like you're seeing things like past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Because that flower scene doesn't happen till this late in the game.
Yeah, yeah.
So everything that's been
these are
set
all
up,
important parts in his life.
In his life. So, it's like that flower field scene that's in the very opening part of the game is now coming into play.
Yeah.
And like I said, I thought that it was Renoa talking, and then you find out this is literally a quote from Squall. He says all of this stuff in his dialogue in the flower field scene here at the orphanage. So they make the promise. They will find each other here should the moment arise, and this will come up a little bit later. Esthar contacts the Ragnarok with a message wanting to hire Squall and party for the last seed mission. They go to the presidential palace, and guess who we find is the president of Esthar, Laguna Luar. He is the one.
Ward, one of his
Yes, and so is Kyros.
Oh, Kyros is. I couldn't remember if Kyros was there too.
Yep. So Laguna saved Esthar from Adele and stopped the Sorceress War himself. He tricked her into getting into
that sealed
Sorceress Memorial.
Thing.
He knocks her into the coffin. They put her into space, and the lovable loser, the unlikely hero, saves the fucking world again by being in the right place at the right time. Really? And just getting super lucky.
Well, because he was only in that city too to rescue alone, wasn't he?
Yes.
And then he was there when.
Well, and
Doesn't he do like a side deal with Odin to create that thing? I can't remember how
I don't remember how they start the machine. I think he just does it on his own. But yeah, so Laguna had planned to go back to Wind Hill with Alone, but because Rain died, Squall and Alone went to the orphanage.
Yeah.
And because Laguna felt obligated to stay in Esthar and help fix the country, he stayed and didn't realize that Alone and Squall had gone to the orphanage. I don't even think he knew about Squall.
Yeah.
Until much later. And so,
well, even when you meet him, he doesn't realize you're his son at all.
Well,
people just mention that you guys look alike.
Well, he does say, though, we have a lot to talk about when you get back.
Oh, so he knows. He just doesn't bring it up to...
Right, he doesn't bring it up immediately. And then if you talk to Kyros, he says... Or no. If you talk to Ward, he has the ... And then Kyros translates, basically, and says... Ward says, at least you don't look like your father, or something like that, or something like that, right? Which is weird because all of the Moombas recognize you as Laguna.
Yeah.
But it really sucks because like Laguna was so loyal to people to a fault that not only did he miss out on having his family like he wanted, but then the woman that he loved died.
Yeah, he never does get to spend like his time with her.
He never gets that family that he wanted.
Yeah.
And that'll come into play again later too, but
this is where they come up with the time compression plan too, right?
Yeah, and this is the part too that as much as I hate to admit it, it works.
Yeah.
Laguna basically does a fucking My Little Pony Nomura-esque power or friendship is power. Like, I'm going to explain time compression to you, and basically how you get around time compression and how to survive it is that you have to think of your friends, and your friends have to remember you, and friendship is power, and
but honestly,
it works.
This context alone, it makes sense, right?
It works
because you'd lose yourself. You all have to go in it together. You all have to remember each other, because if one person forgets someone, they're gone. They never existed, right? So this is where it makes sense. Like, as much as people are like, the stupid powers, friendship, but this time, like, it really, like, it makes sense.
Well, and it also tests their bond too, because of the Guardian forces.
Yeah.
Like, these guys forgot who they were, and now their bond is being tested by time compression. And if anybody's bond fails to materialize, it could be catastrophic to the party.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it shows that evolution in character for everybody, including Squall, that if you rely on your friends like you have chosen not to your entire life, that is going to be your saving grace.
Yeah. It's the only thing that'll get you through it.
But you have to believe in them, and they have to believe in you. And that's the thing that, like, finally shows Squall has broken through, that now he is ready to rely on other people like he's never been able to. And I think, to me, they nailed that part. As much as I fucking hate to admit it, they nailed that part really well.
Does Squall rescue Rinoa after he talks to Laguna?
No, it's before.
Because he just like busts her out, and then you get that scene where she's
the flower scene
out of the out of the chamber, and then he like falls into his arm. She falls into his arms,
and then that's when they go. That's when they go to the orphanage. They have the flower scene, and then everything that I say is going to be in sequential order.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like a timeline of events, basically how it comes, right?
Yeah.
So anything from now on is going to be in sequence.
This is also when you have like free reign of the Ragnarok. You can do all the cool side quests. Like
Right.
there's that little alien guy because there's like the Windhill in one of those monster magazines. There's this Windhill alien UFO
The
thing,
pew pew
right?
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
poo poo or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then
The
there's
Obel
also
Lake.
there's one of the magazines, and I love it because it's like these fucking little magazines you can find, and they tell about all these urban legends, and you
Yep.
can go and like actually find all of them.
I did all the
In the
Chocobo
game.
Forest too.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I would have done that when I got my platinum trophy, but
Because you got
I
the Chocobo summon.
right. Okay, yeah, yeah. And
Wait,
then
Chocobo summon or
there's a Mog one and or
yeah.
Choco Mog, I think it is.
No,
What it
that's
is.
in 7.
Oh. Well, you get something.
Yeah, I think you get Chikabo.
But it's only in the it's only in the remaster because in the original you had to play the Pocket
Choco
Station
World
game.
or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, you could do that. You could do the Shumi Village where you find out
that
that
Shumis evolve into Moombas.
yeah, which is hilarious because Shumis are like these super wise, like got like ancient beings basically that like craft things and like do cool shit. And then yeah, when they basically ascend, they turn into like these little lion doggy guys.
Sort of. They actually do explain that depending on what is in a Shumi's heart when they die,
Right, determines what they'll turn into.
determines what they turn into. So if they're happy or they're good people or whatever, they'll turn into Moombas. But in Norg's case, they actually say we're not sure what he'll become because Norg's heart is different than that of a normal Shumi.
Right.
So they kind of go back and tell you, like, hey, Norg was one of us, but he wasn't really one of us.
Yeah. He
Um,
uses intelligence to basically become some capitalist, like
right. The
douchebag.
only reason I liked the Shumi Village side quest was because of the lore.
Yeah,
The
same.
actual side quest kind of sucks.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
I liked the Chocobo Forest because it was fairly easy to do.
The jumbo cactuar that you can
Yes.
see, you can see him from like the world map popping up and stuff.
Which was super easy to do too.
Yeah, and then you go fight him, and it's this giant cactuar with a little fucking French mustache.
Well, and Cactuar Island is the best grind spot in the game.
Yeah, because of all the AP, because cactuars give you massive AP.
They give you massive AP and they give you no experience.
No EXP. Yeah.
So you get Cactuar from there. I liked getting Odin.
Yeah, Odin. I liked Sentra. That was a good little side quest too. I got him way earlier, I think.
So did I.
Correctly.
I actually really liked Bahamut's this time. I didn't when I did it before, but I really liked it this time.
I always loved it. Because what is it? It's like an abandoned research base, right?
It's the DC Research Center, yeah.
Deep Sea, yeah. And you go in, and it's like this pulsing light, and you basically play fucking red light, green light with Bahamut. And you have to answer these like questions. And then you fight him, and if you beat him, you get Bahamut, who is like the second most powerful summon in the game.
Yep. And then you have to go downstairs.
Yeah.
You have to use the steam.
The deep sea.
You have to do the steam thing, and if you get that, you fight Omega Weapon. And I think
that one's Ultima Weapon. The one in Ultimecia Castle is Omega.
Yeah, it's one of the two. But you get Eden from there.
Yeah. And Eden is like this ancient garden, basically, that is like a weapon.
Which I love the
cutscene and everything.
I love the lore of it because like garden, seed, Garden of Eden, like
it's like it's so powerful, but the cutscene's like 20 minutes.
And it's the Guardian Force in the game that has Devour, so it has another like biblical reference to it also. So it's really cool.
Oh, I never even thought of that because that's where they ate the apple or whatever.
Right? Exactly. So they devour or whatever, and it's funny because the cutscene for Devour is like this. What is it? It's like a censored.
It's like stand by.
Yeah,
soon or something.
Yeah, and it's like a flower field or something.
Yeah, because it's too gross.
Yeah,
because they're devouring the monsters and enemies alive.
Yeah, but I really liked some of the side missions. The Obel Lake one I didn't do.
I've done it, and it's not very good.
It's really tedious, and you don't get very much out of it.
It's basically, if I remember correctly, it's like a monkey or something that lives in the woods. Is what? It is
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So anyway, you find out that like Alone survived the thing. She got out in a escape pod, and Galbadia now has her in the lunatic Pandora. They also reveal like Ultimecia has the junction machine alone that Odine created. So in the future, she has this machine that she's using to come back in time to possess people. They don't really explain how she's able to possess people, and that's one thing that really bothers me about this whole game. Is like,
But didn't she like spend years mastering that ability?
but they don't really tell you that. Like,
I thought that's what it was.
That's the problem I have, because all of this stuff that they introduce in like the last fifth of the game just has zero rules or explanations to any of it, and you're just kind of supposed to go with it.
Yeah.
And like, I have the problem with a lot of Nomura and Katase games where they just expect you to just go with it, and my analytical brain can't help myself. And I will analyze the shit out of something and then be like, this doesn't work. Why is this thing? But they're literally, and I have to credit Mike from Resident Arc with this, because he was talking about something with his Xenogears podcast where he said that you have to sometimes learn the difference between what is in there to mean something and what is in there because it looks or sounds cool.
Yeah, just like a cool little plot device.
And while I know that Nomura and Katase in the past have done things where it means something or whatever, a lot of their shit is, I'm putting it in here because it's either funny, it looks cool, or it sounds cool, and you don't need an explanation. Because
but a good writer finds a way to write that in,
right,
where it fits the story, right, and the world, and stuff.
And there's no rules or limitations to what a sorceress can actually fucking do.
Yeah.
And so it bothers me that they introduce all of these things.
I feel like, because does that explain what causes time compression?
Well, I think it's basically that all sorceresses from all points in time or something like that have to cast the spell for it to work. So that's why she goes back in time and gets the power of all the different sorceresses.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of what I thought too.
Right. It's they explain it, but it's such
she like possesses all of them. And I think that's why when you go through time compression, you fight all these different sorceresses throughout time.
Yeah.
Which is cool as fuck, honestly. I thought that was really cool.
Right. And like the machine,
all their towns and stuff.
Right. And the machine she uses like has limitations. So she's trying to find Alone so she can go back even farther.
Yeah.
Like, it's this weird fucking thing, and it's just...
But anyways, you find Lunatic Pandora, you blow a hole in it with the badass Ragnarok, and like launch your claws into it, and like you get into Lunatic Pandora. I remember the dungeon itself being a bit of a nightmare my first time through, but now it's fine. Like, it's not that bad. And then you fight Cypher, right? And it's kind of cool because you fight Cypher. Does Cypher take Rinoa, or how does Rinoa end up getting to Adel?
Yes. Cypher takes Rinoa, I believe.
Okay. So you fight Cypher, and is Cypher the end of Disc 3? Or is Adel the end of Disc 3? I want to say it's Cypher.
Adele is the end of Disc 3 because you fight her while she's junctioning Rinoa.
Right.
So she ends Disc 3.
So you fight Cypher, and it's a pretty tough fight, and then that's when Odin shows up. And he's like, I'm going to get you, boy. And I remember the first time, because you're like, oh, Odin's a one-hit kill. This is going to be fucking awesome, right? Because you don't know it's like a scripted event if you have Odin at this time. And then Odin does like his cool like Zantetsuken where he like, that samurai where like I slice through you and you're back there and you're supposed to die.
Yeah.
Except this time, Odin gets sliced in half and dies. And then you keep fighting a bit, right? And then all of a sudden Gilgamesh comes. Is it like a sword stabs into the ground and then Gilgamesh comes from the sky? I can't remember how he enters. So. And then he's got like that
I
fucking
think there's like
cardboard
like a
arm.
thunderstorm going on or something.
Right. And then yeah, all of a sudden Gilgamesh shows up and you're like, holy fuck, it's my boy Gilgy. And he's dead. This is like the most serious you'll ever see Gilgamesh. But then he still has that one cardboard arm for whatever reason. And the way Gilgamesh works from this point on is there's a number of random weapons, because Gilgamesh's whole thing is he wants to be powerful enough to defeat Barts, right? So he collects all the best weapons throughout all the different Final Fantasies. And so it's a random roll as to what weapon he's going to use every time he appears. And I had him show up during my Omega weapon fight, and he pulled Excalibur, which does 1 HP damage, and it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I do like Gilgamesh. Like, so their plan, it's so weird because their plan to defeat Ultimecia is actually to let her succeed to a certain point. Reach her. They're like, okay, you guys are going to let her do time compression.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, you're going to defeat, like, so you defeat Adele, time compression starts, and then basically the gist of it is Alone is going to, like,
kind of guide you there.
Like, Ultimecia is going to possess Renoa. She's going to send both their minds to the past to cast time compression. Then Alone is going to sever that link, bring everyone back to their proper times, and that halts the spell. Like, it stops the spell mid-cast so that, like, the party can get to the future, defeat Ultimecia, and then try to make it back. And it's like, when I explain it like that, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But in the game,
it just kind of happens. It all kind of just happens.
They explain it, but it's such. This is why I say, like, the last fifth of the game really drops off, because it just it feels like they just fucking said fuck it and was like, this is what's gonna happen.
They kind of make it up as they go. Yeah, it feels like.
Yeah. So,
but you fight Adel, who has Rhinoa junction to her chest, which I remember this being a really hard fight for me too when my first time, because this was, keep in mind, most people on their first playthrough use GFs for everything, right? So I am beating the shit out of Rhinoa every time I cast a summon. And I remember, like, oh man, I could not beat it for like a long time.
Yeah.
And but the cutscene of like Adel like waking up and stuff, like busting out of the tomb, and
she
all
is
that
pissed
was
as
really cool.
fuck.
Yeah, she's badass.
Yeah, I do like Adele a lot. So yeah,
she's got like fucking antlers too, doesn't she, or some shit?
Well, it's like body armor that I think extends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she's got like this face mask thing too that goes around. Yeah,
the Jean Grey face mask.
Yeah. So, so we talked about going into Lunatic Pandora. We see Fujin and Raijin again, and they're trying to convince him, like, hey, Ultimecia is evil, like, you need to come back to us, right?
And he doesn't turn them down.
Yeah, he says it's too late.
And then they're like, fuck you then.
Yeah, and he takes Renoa to Ultimecia. This is after you fight
Adel.
Yeah, sorry. And, well, technically, Ultimecia is in Renoa's body. So you beat Adele. Hopefully you didn't kick the shit out of Renoa. And then that's when time compression starts.
Yeah.
And
that shit is awesome. That's an awesome cutscene.
It is. It is a trippy, psychedelic fucking thing.
Yeah. They did a really good job, because it's time compression. Like, what could you think of that would make, like, what would time compression look like? And I think they did a good job of.
They did. And the other thing too is, like, when you reach her castle, like, when you go and you get to the chains that lead up to her castle, there are dead, like, seeds
everywhere
from generations in the future showing up as time is coming together. So you're seeing the death of Seed.
Yeah.
Right in front of your eyes.
Dude, it's so good.
It's so cool.
Do you fight the sorceress during time compression or once you get to the castle? I think it's during time compression. You fight your way through time.
I think you're right. You can also go through these gates on the left side of the screen.
And I did not know this until my most recent playthrough. I didn't know you could go back to like the regular world. And apparently there's like limitations to what you can't go in any like towns or something apparently.
Right.
But I didn't know you could go back to the past. I thought you were just stuck.
Well, I don't think you're going back to the past. I think you're going to different areas that are compressed.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Which is why I think you can't get into the city because it's so fucked.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't know that until like fucking my latest playthrough, which was like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. So this is where you get to her castle, and
awesome castle, by the way.
Awesome
like, the whole
fucking
design,
castle.
Like it's like you go from playing this like cyberpunk, steampunk kind of game, that's like this futuristic Final Fantasy, and then it really feels, because of this castle, it feels like you're back in like a Final Fantasy 4 setting or a Final Fantasy 1 setting. But it does the castle does get a good job of incorporating like that Victorian, like it's almost like a Castlevania castle,
like a gothic castle.
Yeah, it really is.
I love the
but
theme.
with like gears and stuff, like, you know, it's fucking great.
But the dungeon itself sucks
hard
balls.
Fuck.
It
hardest
sucks
final
balls.
dungeon probably ever. So at this point, you lose everything. You cannot use items. You cannot use GFs. You cannot use magic. You cannot use any of your abilities other than attack, basically.
This is where having the good weapons in the game really comes into play. Because this is where, like, your magic's gone, so you can't junction. Your guardian forces are gone, so you can't junction those. Like, you have nothing. You can't draw magic, anything. So you have to get through this castle and unlock your abilities.
And in order to unlock each ability, you have to beat a boss. And the bosses are fucking hard.
And you have like a recommended order that you're supposed to do to get like... So you can pick whatever you want.
Yeah.
To come back.
To a point, yeah. Oh, yeah, to come back, yeah.
But you have to pick what will work for the next boss.
Yeah.
So if the next boss is weak to magic, your next fight is going to be hard if you don't revive your magic ability.
Yeah. I think almost everyone picks GF or items first.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But like this part, I didn't mind so much in the remaster because I had the speed up feature.
Oh yeah.
So I was able to get around everything and get through it quicker. And actually,
you get to see like you get to see paintings of like all the different eras and stuff too.
Right.
In that one.
It's part of the puzzle in that room.
Yeah.
And so the great thing about it too is that like if to get to Ultima Weapon or whichever one it is in the castle, you have to ring the bell and run to the bell tower or whatever it is, and there's that organ in the back, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you ring that bell in the like the lobby area and you get to that spot, Omega Weapon's waiting for you.
Yeah.
And on the remastered version, you can do that without having to like do anything special. But I think if you don't use the 3 times speed, there's something special you have to do. I don't remember what it is to get there in time to fight it. But yeah, I got through it. I fought Omega Weapon. I beat every boss in the castle, got all my stuff back.
The puzzles, this is coming from a guy, like, I hate fucking puzzles and mazes and shit, and I honestly found the puzzles in this to be, like, perfect. They're, like,
they weren't
not
bad.
Too long, not too hard,
They were a little tedious, but, like, they weren't bad.
Not bad.
The layout of the castle is what kind of bothered me, but it is what it is. It's not, like, a major deal. It's not the most egregious dungeon I've ever done. But it is hard as fuck.
It's the hardest. Like, this is why this castle and everything that happens from this point on is why I believe Final Fantasy VIII is the hardest Final Fantasy game of all time.
I've never finished it at level 100. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I would never try.
Yeah. And that's obviously because of the leveling mechanics, but
And then you like basically you reach her door. First of all, I need to mention how like when you first get to the entrance to her castle, how it like the doors just like open a crack and the door's like fucking huge and the players are like this big and they just walk through the crack and then the camera just like pans up and it's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get to her throne room and isn't her throne like way high up off the ground and stuff?
I love the symbolism there
Yeah.
because she is placing herself as a
Above
god.
everyone, yeah.
Like, she is the ruler of the time compressed world, and she's gonna make sure you fucking know it.
Yeah. She rules all time, basically.
Yeah, and I love that they gave her like this.
Beastly kind of.
Well, she's hot, number one.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
super hot. And she has like a. I want to say, I think it's like Russian or some sort of like.
Mortal Kombat accent.
Right. But I think the reason they give her K's is the same reason they gave Dr. Odine the accent that he had. They wanted to give her like this villainous accent. So like her, even though her C's are K's and it's basically the same sound.
Yeah.
It would almost be like she's saying it as like a hard K, like compression, compression.
She
you
talks,
know, she's very deliberate
way.
in how she talks.
Even the way her speech is worded.
I could see it being like an accent of sorts, where she's very deliberately saying words with a k sound instead of like a C-ish k sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
More like just emphasizing her words. And did I mention that she's really fucking hot?
Yeah, she is, man.
Yeah,
she is
the hottest villain maybe ever.
Yeah. The Cloud of Darkness is, but the Cloud of Darkness, I don't know how sentient the Cloud of Darkness really is at the end of the day. Yeah.
Right. In 14, I think she's more sentient than she is in
Cloud?
3. Yeah. So you face off against Ultimecia, and then eventually she creates Griever. And that's important.
From Squall's mind.
Yes, because that's his
icon to him.
That's his idea of strength.
Yeah.
Like he even says, like, I think earlier in the game, something about, you know, the lion is the strongest. Like, it has no fear. It's you know, it's the rule, like everything that Squall basically isn't.
Yeah.
like he is, but he doesn't. It's funny because
what he aspires to be someday.
But not really, because Squall doesn't want to be a leader.
That's true.
And it's
what he sees as like the most powerful thing.
It's ironic to me that as an animal that leads a pack, right? A lion leads its pack or group or whatever the fuck it's called. And he sees himself like he sees that a powerful creature is the lion. But that's not him. That's not like he is a natural born leader, so in that way it's the symbolism is that yes, he is a lion.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he doesn't want those things. He doesn't want to be a leader. Yeah. So it's just an ironic thing to me that his idea of strength is a lion when he doesn't take on or doesn't want the same qualities that a lion possesses other than strength.
But
he does, and it's that full circle thing. It eventually comes around that he is that lion now.
Yeah. But I think it's so smart of Ultimecia to like basically take that from his mind. His idea of like that symbolism of like perfection to him, like his idol creature, and uses it against him, right?
Right.
To try and break him.
So I really like it because it's like a fear tactic.
Yeah. You fight Griever. You fight her first, right?
Right. You fight her first.
And then you fight Griever, and then she like junctions herself to Griever or something like that.
And then she completes time compression by transforming again and
fucking badass alien looking fucking thing, man.
Also still would. But anyway,
just the face is a 4K TV. Like, how do you go wrong?
I mean, she is the queen of time and space, and
Is smoking hot.
right,
She's got kind of like weird moose antler things going on, but
still would. Anyway, so yeah,
man, that's a fucking good boss fight. It
is a long as fuck and hard as fuck
so
boss
good
fight.
though, man.
And so
Doesn't
did you
the
know
music change when you reach your final form too? I want to say, or when you get close to beating it.
I also think that the party that goes into that fight is random.
I think so too.
And then if a character dies, they get sucked into the void.
Yeah, yeah.
And so eventually you beat her. You know, she basically explodes, and you think she's dead. And
she starts like gyrating, like all creepy and stuff.
Time compression starts to go away, but unfortunately that means that now is the time for Squall and his friends to rely on each other. Squall kind of succeeds, but he accidentally goes to the wrong time.
Yeah.
And he sees Matron, and he sees Ultimecia give Hideo the powers, and then she dies. And it is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
She knew that a seed named Squall would kill her, and that she was going to do what it took
to try and prevent
it so she could rule all of time and space.
But
and
her
by
preventing it
but
was
her
what caused it.
Her tactic of preventing it exactly is what caused her death. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. She caused her own death.
Yeah.
And so
she's the victim, for really, if you think about it. Just trying to get in Ultimecia's good books.
I wish, and this is where I love Ultimecia, but she falls a little flat. They don't give a reason for anything that she does other than her central motive, and this is supposed to be your main villain. So, like,
I think it's like with her craving for power, like her greed for power, her craving for power is unmatched, right?
Right.
So even if she knows, she's so narcissistic that even though she knows that this is what causes all this, she still thinks in her narcissism that no, if I become powerful enough, they can't stop me. That's what I believe.
And my thought too, though, is like, I wish they would have done something where, like, maybe she had a knight and, like, Seed killed her knight, and now to get revenge on Seed, because her whole thing is she fucking hates Seed. Like,
yeah,
she's going to destroy
but again,
Seed.
Seed was only created to kill her, basically.
Right, but again, the cycle.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish that they would have done something a little bit more with her and been like, here is why this is her motivation. This is why she hates
like
Seed.
Why does she want to be so powerful? And
like, what is she trying to do other than just rule time and space?
But I could see, because she's obviously a powerful sorceress to begin with. So my guess is like she rules her time, I think.
She does.
In her era.
They actually says she does.
Yeah. So it's like she's so powerful and power hungry and full blown narcissist. That's not enough. You know what I mean? Why would I rule the world? This is boring. I want to rule all space and time, right? So I think that's her motivation. This is just she's fucking bored. She rules everything in her time.
I guess I could see that. I don't know. Her presence in the game just feels really thrown in at times. So I don't know. I was kind of hoping that eventually they would do something different with her, but I love her as a villain, if only because she's really hot. No,
hot and like fucking powerful.
If evil, why hot? No,
and terrifying.
Yeah,
like, you know, like she's so good.
But so anyway, Hideo gets the powers because she's actually a sorceress.
Yeah.
And he sets in motion his own destiny. Then, obviously, Sid establishes Garden.
Yeah.
And I really think it's cool, too, because, like, Squall sees himself as a child.
Yeah.
And he basically looks at Hideo, and he comforts her. He says, "Don't worry, that little boy will come back." And then that's when she realizes this is Squall. And she says, she says to the little boy, I believe, "You're the only Squall that belongs here," or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, like, then this is the point where Squall is supposed to, like, try to come back to his own time.
But he kind of gets lost.
And he gets lost, and, like, you see the scene where he has no face, and you're like, okay, what the fuck?
That part's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Eh? And it's then, like all his memories are like flashing by like super fast.
And then Renoa breaks through the fog, and she saves him and brings him back. And then
it's because they remembered to the promise that they'd meet in that field.
The one thing, now we're going to get to the ending of this because it's about that time. This is why I don't like Cypher by the end of this game.
Oh, yeah, he just gets a free pass.
Exactly. There is no fucking consequences to anything he did.
No, and he doesn't ever redeem himself.
And there's no explanation as to how much of him was being mind controlled and how much of it was he drinking the goddamn tea.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you never get an explanation. You never get any kind of, like, insight into his character after, like, disc 1. They don't establish, like, is Cypher jealous of Squall, and that's why he is driven to face off with Squall more often? Like, they just kind of drop Cypher off the map until it's convenient for him. And
then he's fishing with the boys.
And then he's fishing with the boys, which you kind of wanted him to do because of Fujin and Raijin, and you love those two characters, so you're like...
Don't they boot him into the lake?
No, Fujin boots Raijin into the lake. But...
And he's like laughing or whatever.
Right.
So I guess the only way you could interpret that is that he had to have been mind controlled for like 99% of that.
Yeah, but they don't really tell you. They don't really explain.
They don't. But they also let Hideo get off without doing, like, she committed like how many like fucking war crimes and shit.
But they knew she was possessed.
I know, but that's what I mean. They would have had to have known at the end. They don't tell you ever as the player, but they would have had to have found out or known that he was possessed then.
Right.
It's the only answer that makes this make sense.
Right. I don't know.
But they should have, you're right. They should have fucking, like,
it would have taken like
dialogue that
right.
Said that.
It would have taken like 2 or 3 lines of dialogue.
Because the ending's just straight up a cutscene. There's like no dialogue.
Yeah, it's a cutscene. I do love this, but the ending is also really sad if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. Like
because
Rain's grave and all that.
Yeah, Laguna finally goes to Rain's grave with Alone and Kiros and Ward, and you see the ring on his hand, and then there's a flashback to Laguna and Rain together, and then I'm pretty sure that's the last time he ever saw her alive.
Yeah.
And it's like Squall and everybody fly over in the garden, and like you'd think it's supposed to be like this happy moment, like everybody's alive, everybody's well, Squall can go visit Laguna anytime he wants and they can talk, but it's really fucking sad because it's like Rain is dead, and you know that like for a fact now, and like it just shows you that Laguna never got to be
He never
happy.
got to really live his life.
Yeah,
like,
he never got to watch
he paid the ultimate price. Like he lost his wife, but much worse than that, he never got to have a relationship or a family with his wife either.
Right. And it It's very sad ending. As much as it
It's
is a happy
bittersweet.
ending, it's bittersweet. Yeah, it's not really
Where Final
necessarily.
Fantasy is kind of at this era, Final Fantasy is pretty big on the bittersweet ending at this
Right.
point in time. Like
VV.
yeah, VV 10,
Uh,
10's like huge bittersweet
yeah,
moment.
yeah. So it's pretty funny though, because the ending does have some funny scenes, because there's like the whole part where it's like shot with a camera.
Yeah, that's during the credits, right?
And yeah, and fucking Zell is just
Zell's
jamming
scarfing
fucking
down
hot, like
dogs.
double fisting hot dogs in his mouth, and he starts choking and shit, and like,
Yeah, I think we know what our opening scene should be.
So, god damn it. So, I'm not even fucked up. So,
and he's like choking. He's like, he's choking on a hot dog.
And like everybody's talking to Squall
laughing.
and Renoa and everything, and finally Squall and Renoa kiss.
Yeah.
They finally have it. And I don't know. Did you get the feeling that like Irvine and Selphie end up together, and maybe Zell and Quistis?
I don't know. I don't get any vibe from Zell and Quistis.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
I could see Irvin and Selphie, but
yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
know. Zell and them hot dogs, man. I think that's
Zell.
the match.
You know what? Zell's real love is hot dogs.
It absolutely is.
So
I've always wanted to try Balam Garden hot dogs.
It does crack me up though that like it's almost a reference to Squall and Renoa.
What do you mean?
A little bit, because like, from the very beginning, Zell has wanted those hot dogs, and every time he's gone to get them, they've been much like Squall. They're unavailable, right?
Yeah.
And now at the very end of the game, after time compression's been stopped and they're all happy and shit, he finally got his hot dogs.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the real love story of Final Fantasy VIII, folks.
Real love story. The fucking like how every title has a logo in it. The logo should have been a giant fucking hot dog.
Yeah, it says, doesn't it say like fiend, or like it's not even, it doesn't even say the end, it just says like fiend, like finish,
like
you know?
Finn, yeah.
So
I love the ending, but yeah, it's got some sad stuff in there. It's so good. I don't know. The ending is really good. It honestly, it makes you wish you would like see what happens to these characters. Like if they made like a movie or something of 8 and didn't fuck it up like they did with every other Final Fantasy movie, I think it could be pretty cool.
Like, I think a remake of this game would do really well with it.
Yeah, if they did it right.
As long as they left the plot ghosts out of it.
Yeah. But like a prequel or a sequel, I think out of all the Final Fantasy games, this one would be the most would be the most worthwhile to do a sequel or a prequel.
I think prequel more so than a sequel, because I feel like 8 had a solidified ending.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna create that's gonna be?
That's the thing. It's weird because like they never do it, but I always like when there's a sequel and the big bad isn't as bad as the original big bad. You know what I mean? Like I like the arcs in Dragon Ball where Goku's not there, right? So the other cast have to deal with it. So it's not as powerful as like Frieza maybe, but it's still
right.
I don't know. I like that for the sequel.
I get what you're saying, because JoJo's does a certain thing like that. Like,
okay,
the first three parts are all basically like surrounding Dio, and Dio is like this. He's seeking world domination. Like, he wants to destroy the world and rule over it and everything. And then like, season 2 is not that, but there is a thing that's trying to rule the world in season 2. Season 4 comes around, and it's based in this small town, and it's kind of like a murder mystery. And then like the main villain isn't trying to rule the world or destroy the world or like be an all-powerful leader. He literally is just a serial killer that wants to just kill people. And like His
Like
stand is really, really powerful, but he's not using it for world domination. It's just kind of a isolated town where he's just a murderer.
yeah, I kind of like that when sequels do that, where it's like it doesn't have to be like this world-ending powerful thing, but it does need to be something that's serious enough that the main cast needs to go and stop it, right?
Right. The problem I have with something like Final Fantasy, though, is that once once you introduce a villain that is like quote unquote all powerful,
Yeah, yeah, like the god time compression, like
it's very hard to make a villain later on
makes sense.
make sense that the party couldn't just smack away
Yeah, but if it's
easily.
years later and they're not all together, like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy has this weird power scaling thing, and
Yeah, it does.
it just doesn't.
Almost always, yeah.
Sequels just almost don't work because
Unless it's a new cast.
they have to one up each other, right?
Yeah, that's true. Like even after years, it does one up each other. Have you ever played the after years?
It's hard as fuck.
Have you ever beaten it though?
No, I haven't.
Do you know like what the final boss is and like the whole
Yeah.
build up to the final
Yeah.
boss? How it like goes between Final Fantasy games basically and like takes like the fucking crystals from every Final Fantasy game and all that shit.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So like it's called the main villain, if I remember correctly, it's called the Creator, and it's like this fucking basically this space creature alien guy being that goes between all the Final Fantasy games and takes all the like so there's like the fire crystal from one, the fire crystal from all of them, and it goes through each of them, and you have to fight the four, like what would be the representative of the four fiends from every Final Fantasy game,
Jesus.
basically. And then yeah, you fight the Creator and stuff. But his whole thing is that he's traveling through all these dimensions to get all the crystals to become like this omnipotent being or whatever.
So he's
And
like cool Gilgamesh.
yeah, basically, he's like an all-powerful Gilgamesh kind of thing. But the reason up until this point the after years works so well is because yeah, it would be different if Cecil and Kane and like Edge and all those guys were the ones doing the main adventure, but it's basically all their kids and they're not as strong as their parents were in their
Right,
prime,
okay.
right? So that's why it works. But then once you get like 3/4 of the way through the story and you start freeing Cecil, you start freeing Kane gets his like life back in order. And honestly, the story of the After Years is so good, but the gameplay is so difficult and hard because of how they drop you into this nuclear difficult boss fight with a character you haven't even played as yet in this game. But it's so well done, and it is that fact that you're fighting these guys that aren't always this world-ending creature, but it's because you're playing as the kids. And then once you get all the party members from the original game and the kids together, that's when you're fighting this Creator who's fucking this interdimensional being who's gathering all the crystals and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so hard to do for Final Fantasy to do sequels. So
yeah, with a final boss, yeah.
Right. And that's why I won't talk about it. I was going to say something about remake, but I'll just let it go. But yeah, so guys, this was our Final Fantasy VIII podcast series.
Journey.
Was a journey. This is 2 hours and 18 minutes in so far. So we're going to call it here. I want to thank all of you for getting this far. If you guys have watched, every episode and of this series, we really appreciate it. I mean, we really appreciate you watching any of the episodes of any of this podcast at all. So this has been a great journey. We might do this with another game sometime. I'm not sure what it will be. We might do Metal Gear Solid even. I mean, I'm not saying we will, but it's a game we've both played now, and that I'm a decent fan of it. So I don't know. This was fun. I really enjoyed talking about Final Fantasy VIII. It's something we've wanted to do for a really long time and something we finally got done. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching, guys, or listening. Don't forget you can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and my YouTube channel. This was awesome. So thanks for all the likes and shares and ratings and everything. Keep it up. Follow us on Spotify. Get those numbers up, and that's all I got. You got anything to add?
I just want to apologize. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. For my voice, I blew out my voice on the weekend, and it just hasn't come back yet. So I do want to apologize for that. You guys probably noticed it the whole fucking podcast.
Hey, it sounded okay on my end.
Oh, does it? Okay. Yeah, it sounds pretty bad to me, but yeah. Be sure to check out Spectre Fest if you're watching this or listening to this on Friday. It's tomorrow. All day, baby. But yeah, have a good one, guys. Dookie03, aka Corey.
And I'm Alex, aka Soldier First Class. And this has been the finale episode of our Final Fantasy VIII series. Check us out. We're going to be coming back with the next episode. I don't know what the topic's going to be, but we'll figure it the fuck out.
We should do Dragon Quest X. Because we finished the
we could
version 1, like the original game.
We might talk about Dragon Quest X next episode, but we'll discuss it and we'll kind of come up with an idea. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching / listening. This has been episode 10, but our episode 3 of our multi-part series of Final Fantasy VIII. I fucked that up super hard. But that's it. All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Later, guys. Bye.